Coming up on today's show, we are not talking about Ben Simmons. Instead, Tobias Harris trade rumors and trade ideas. But first, last week we were able to reach our goal last week of reaching 3,000 subscribers to honor the GOAT, Allen Iverson. So thanks to all of you who continue to support the channel. And if you want great Sixers coverage right here on 76ers Now by Chat Sports, hit that red subscribe button down below. And we got to show love to the 6-foot guard from Georgetown, number 3, Allen Iverson. All right, welcome into Philadelphia 76ers Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Chase Senior. I hope all of your weeks are off to a fantastic start. Coming up on today's show, Tobias Harris trade rumors as well as trade ideas. This has been a topic of conversation that continues to bubble, and a lot of people have hit me up on social media saying, Chase, Tobias Harris is really a problem considering what he's being paid and the production that the Sixers are getting this year. Now, I always say this about Tobias Harris. He's a solid player, but he is grossly overpaid. And his numbers this year, nowhere close to what they were last year. The production really has slipped off in dramatic fashion. And last year, I thought he was able to put forward one of his best seasons of his career. And throughout his career, he's hopped around a couple of different teams. He's always been a reliable scorer, but considering the contract that Elton Brand had given him, he's just not living up to those expectations. Last year, a season ago, 19.5 points per game, a little less than 7 rebounds. He shot north of 51% from the floor, 39% from distance, and 89% from the charity stripe. This year, points per game down to 18.5. The rebounds are up, but that's not a good indication that he's playing better by any means. He also got roasted, and I mean absolutely roasted the other night against Kevin Durant and the Brooklyn Nets. Field goal percentage down from 51 plus to a little less than 46. 3-point percentage down 10 percentage points all the way down to 29.9. And even the free throw numbers have gone down from 89.2 to 84.9. Now, I understand that Tobias Harris had that battle and that spell with the coronavirus back several weeks ago. Maybe that has something to do with his struggles. But when you're getting paid as much as Tobias Harris is getting paid, you have to be better. Those are just the facts. Tobias Harris is a good player. He is a nice guy. He is good for the culture, but he is wildly overpaid. And we're about to take a look at Tobias Harris's contract. It is one of the worst in the NBA, considering the numbers that he puts forward and the impact or lack thereof that he has on this team every night, and what this team needs from him in order for them to be serious contenders in the Eastern Conference, and what Elton Brand did by extending him. Just a really bad move. And what's something to monitor here is that if the Sixers want to explore a Tobias Harris trade, Daryl Morey, who's now running the ship, wasn't the one who signed Harris to this contract. On the books this year for almost $36 million. Next year, that goes up to $37.5. 2023-24, $39.2. And in 2024, he becomes an unrestricted free agent that offseason at 32 years old. And when you watch Tobias Harris, you might say and look at the stat sheet and say, look, 19 plus points per game last year, 18 plus points per game this year. That can be true, but this can also be true. His stats are kind of empty, and when you watch him, you don't feel as though he is making a profound impact night in and night out. He's being paid like the co-star next to Joel Embiid. He is anything but a legitimate number 2 player. You can't put him in that category of a Chris Middleton next to Giannis, but he's getting paid like that, and he's just not coming through. So his stats are kind of empty because when you look at the box score after the game, you're like, damn, Tobias Harris had 25 points. It did not feel that way on both ends of the floor, and that's the predicament that the Sixers are in and that I'm in with Tobias Harris. So we'll get to some of those TOBI trade ideas coming up in just a few moments, but first, I want to ask you this, and if you're new to us here at Chat Sports and on Philadelphia 76ers Now, we're all about you hopping on board our shows and interacting with all of you. So your opportunity to sound off in the comment section right now. Should the Sixers try to trade Tobias Harris? Type T for trade, type P for pass. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's YouTube video. So if you get hit with that YouTube ad break, just scroll on down and get your votes in. Also coming up, thanks to our friends at Fanatics, a phenomenal holiday deal that we'll tell you about. But first, let's get to this Bobby Marks trade idea. Front office insider for ESPN. He put this trade out there a couple weeks ago, and I do want to revisit it. Now, I don't think this is all too realistic, but the Portland Trail Blazers continue to be a dysfunctional organization, one of the worst teams in the Western Conference, and while Damian Lillard has said, I want to stay in Portland, Dame, you got to maximize your prime years, and if this franchise continues to struggle, you got to ask out. Probably because I wouldn't mind seeing you in Philadelphia. So in this trade idea from Bobby Marks of ESPN, the Sixers would get Damian Lillard and Cody Zeller. The Blazers would get Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey, Matisse Thybulle, and a 2022 first-round pick that has a top 10 protection to it. I think the Blazers would be crazy to do this because Dame, one of the best bucket getters in the NBA and one of the best offensive players that we've seen in modern NBA history, and what you'd be getting back, one of the better all-around defenders in the league in Matisse Thybulle, a guy with a lot of upside in Tyrese Maxey, but a prohibitive contract in Tobias Harris. But Portland stinks, folks. They are 13-18. They are 3-7 in their last 10 games. Damian Lillard's numbers are down this year. A lot of that can be due to the fact that he's dealing with that abdominal strain. But could a trade elsewhere re-energize him to a certain degree and maybe resuscitate his career to a certain level? I think so, because we see examples of this happening all the time. So I think that the Sixers would win this trade because they get back Damian Lillard, and I think his fit next to Joel Embiid would be great. But who do you think would win the trade? Type POR for the Blazers, PHI for the Sixers. Once again, get those votes in. Now, Christmas is on Saturday, and it's right around the corner. And if you haven't done your holiday shopping, yeah, you got to hit the buzzer before it sounds. But hey, if you still have to do some Christmas shopping, we have you hooked up with a tremendous deal thanks to our friends at Fanatics. This Sixers pregame hoodie was $150. Guys, it is on sale for $42. Has the Sixers logo on that sleeve, another Sixers logo on the other sleeve. This thing is fresh. The material is top-notch. You can get it on sale thanks to our friends at Fanatics, only if you use that link down below, chatsports.com/SixersJohn. What I know about John? Yeah, I grew up in the Philly area. I know all about those Johns. What I know, this John right here, it is fresh, and you can get it $150 down to $42. What a markdown. That link going to be available in the description as well as the comment section of this video. Let's move forward with some of these trade ideas. The next three coming from FANSIDED. A couple of them I really like. The other one, I do not at all. I just think the Sixers have to rid themselves of that Tobias Harris contract, which is holding this team down right now on the floor and in terms of their salary cap. With this trade idea, with the Sacramento Kings, Sixers get Buddy Hield, floor spacer, very good shooter, and Harrison Barnes, who kind of reminds me a little bit of Andrew Wiggins. Good defensive player, 3-and-D guy who can also put the ball on the deck as well. And the Kings would get Tobias Harris, Jaden Springer, first-round pick out of Tennessee, and a 2023 protected first-round pick. Kings, Sacramento, your franchise sucks. The Philadelphia 76ers do not. So, for that reason alone, I am begging you, if Daryl Morey calls you up and offers you this deal, you have to do it, just for the psyche of Philadelphia as a whole. The city of brotherly love would benefit greatly from this trade, and let's face it, the Kings are an awful basketball operation. They fired Luke Walton. They do not have a bright future. So why not rebuild with a couple of players from the Philadelphia 76ers and get rid of a couple of guys who just don't want to be there? You go from Sacramento to Philadelphia, you go from not being in the playoffs to be in the thick of the playoff race. Hey, let's ride Buddy Hield and Harrison Barnes. Next trade idea, a 3-team deal between the Sixers, Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Boston Celtics. Here, the Sixers would get Lauri Markkanen, Marcus Smart, Jabari Parker. The Cavs would get Tobias Harris, Dennis Schroeder, and Jaden Springer. The Celtics would receive Ricky Rubio, Paul Reed, B-Ball Paul, and Kevin Pangos. Now, this doesn't really do anything for me because Lauri Markkanen really is just an okay player. Marcus Smart is really overpaid. While I like what he would bring in terms of toughness in terms of physicality, in terms of him being a bulldog and a competitor. He's way too spotty on the offensive end, and he just got signed to a monster contract, which is bad, just like that deal for Tobias Harris. Next trade idea, the last one we want to pass along, might be my favorite because the Sixers get back a headline player in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is really making things happen. And this past offseason, he signed that max contract extension worth a little less than $200 million. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, otherwise known as SGA, is one of the best up-and-coming young players in the league. And TJ Warren is a really good bucket getter as well on the offensive end of the floor. This isn't even including Ben Simmons, and maybe you include Ben Simmons to make this deal even more possible. SGA in Philadelphia would be amazing for a multitude of reasons. He cures some of your offensive deficiencies. He's under contract, and this guy, in my opinion, is a blossoming superstar. I would love him in a Philadelphia 76ers uniform, and I go from that to asking you this. Which trade idea do you like the most of those three? And you can even include Bobby Marks's as well. Type 1, Type 2, Type 3. Let me know which trade idea you like. And I have to give a shout out to Lil Kareem. Last 76ers Now, I had said, hey, for those of you who hit me up on Twitter, I'm going to give you a shout out on the show. So Lil Kareem, you added me on Twitter at Chase_Senior. Appreciate you for watching Philadelphia 76ers Now. And if you all haven't subscribed, hit that red subscribe button right now.